lot happening at our hospital to try and improve the service that we deliver to you. And I say we because I'm still the communication specialist there. So what our CEO, Neil Clarke, he's created this 2025 to 2028 strategy. Under that strategy, there are a number of targets that we must meet, a number of objectives to achieve as well. One of those is to improve the efficiency in which we deliver our service to you. That means we want to make sure that you spend when I say as little time in the hospital, in terms of we don't want your stay to be extended for any reason. So we're putting mechanisms in place to make sure that that delivery of care is speedier, and also we try to shorten that time so that you can get back home to your loved ones. But here's a look at what the team has been working on in terms of having an estimated date of discharge. Take a look.
Leaving the hospital can be a big step, but don't worry. At Queen Elizabeth Hospital, we are here to make your journey home as smooth and as safe as possible. Discharge planning starts from the day you arrive. We'll talk with you and your family or caregivers about what you'll need to go home safely and set an estimated discharge date within 48 hours of admission. Your care team includes doctors, nurses, therapists, dietitians, social workers, and pharmacists. We work together to make sure you're fully prepared for your return home. Before you leave, you'll receive a summary of your treatment, instructions for your medications, details about follow-up appointments, support services if needed, and yes, we'll make sure you understand it all. Your medication is important. We'll explain how and when to take it and where to get refills. If you're unsure, you can always call us using the pharmacy hotline number 536-4804. That's 536-4804, which is also listed on your discharge sheet.
Thank you so very much for all of the wonderful care you have given me. Thank you very much.
We'll help arrange transport if needed. And if you're going home with equipment or need help at home, we'll make sure it's all in place before you go. Your health doesn't stop when you leave our doors, and neither does our care. If you have questions or feel unsure after going home, reach out. We're just a phone call away at the QEH hotline 536-4800. That's 536-4800.
We're getting better together indeed. That's what we are trying to achieve. And I got to really thank Tricia Ward, who is our lead on quality at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, for putting that production together. Good morning.
Good morning.
We don't normally see each other so early, but good to have you here on Mornin Barbados. So that's Tricia Ward, Service Improvement Manager. Always a big smile on her face. No, for Service Improvement Manager is right next to me. Tricia Ward is lead in quality, or quality manager acting. This is Dr. Ayja Clarke. She is our service improvement manager, one of three, doing just as her title says, helping to improve that service at our hospital. Good to have you on, Dr.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
Gonna laugh. I know it's early. I know it's early, ladies. So let's talk about that video. Tricia, talk about how it came about.
Okay, we have a committee at the hospital called the Discharge Planning Committee. So we're looking at ways in which we can help persons have effective discharge and reduce the delays. There were quite a number of areas that were affecting delays for discharges. So we decided that we will come together and try to get some education out there to our staff and also to the patients to help them to prepare for discharge and let them know what it's all about. We brought in all of the elements that was required, the lab surface and various other areas that was impacting discharges so that persons can be efficiently, effectively discharged. We wanted also to let the public know when persons were being discharged. So we planned that with our new discharge planning policy, that on admission you were given your discharge date, and that's one of the things we had implemented, and that the public was aware of that as well.
So on admission, you're given that estimated date of discharge. Dr. Clarke, why is it so important that as soon as you come into the hospital and you go through, the processes of being treated and then of course admitted, as you're being admitted, why is it so important to give the patient that estimated date of discharge? They may say, you're rushing me out of the hospital without treating me.
Right, so the estimated date of discharge, as you said, is really just an estimate, and the aim is to give everyone involved in that patient's care team, so the doctors, the nurses, importantly the relatives and the patient themselves, an idea of when this patient might be going home. Remember, it's an estimate, so based on your diagnosis, they might say, for instance, if you come in with a diabetes-related complication, you might stay for X amount of time, and you might get better much more quickly and go home sooner, or you might take a bit longer to get better and you might go home a little later. But the aim is to give everybody that central time that they're working towards so that they can make sure you get targeted care. And remember as well that we just don't want you to go home on time, we want you to go home safely.
Right.
And the estimated date of discharge is never going to trump the safety of the patient. But the real reason it's important is we want to start that discharge process from as early as possible. Historically, we found that if you start the discharge planning process a bit later, sometimes you can hit roadblocks in that process. All right, you can be rushing at the end. We want to start it as early as possible and make sure we have the relative and the patient involved along the way.
A big part of that was a pilot project that you would have done on our wards. Explain what the pilot project was all about and why was it so important for the mandate of the discharge committee?
So with everything, it's always difficult or tricky to go full steam ahead right out of the gate. It's always important to test it out. So what we did, did 2 pilot projects. The first one was small and then the second one was a bit larger. So with the first one, we did 6 boards on 6 wards, and we really were looking to get feedback from the patients.
Boards?
Boards.
Yeah.
Boards, so yes, so estimated date of discharge boards.
Oh.
So that's what this entire project really centers around, a bedside board. So the board will be available at the patient's bedside, either to the right or to the left. And what it has on is all of the information that's important to getting that patient home. So the central thing to it, as you mentioned before, will be the estimated date of discharge. But it will also have on other things that are critical to the discharge process. So
Okay.
any investigations the patient might need, the support services that have to be engaged for the patient, all of those things will be on the board as well. So as I said, the first pilot project had 6 boards, 6 bedsides on 5 wards, and we got feedback and we made changes to the board based on that because we want to make sure that the board is user friendly, that persons understand it, and when we spread it out to the rest of the hospital, it's something that can actually work in everybody's day-to-day process.
What was the early feedback like? Sorry to cut you.
No problem.
Because I think you were going into the second end of the pilot project.
Yes.
You go ahead with that.
So the second part of the pilot project, we then did 2 full wards, so 24 beds
Right.
on 2 wards. And the aim of that one really was to see what would the workload be like for the staff if they have to maintain maintain this entire full complement of boards on these 2 wards. So we collected feedback, as I said, from the staff and also from the patients and the relatives. Overwhelmingly, the patients and the relatives were very pro the boards. They thought it was quite a positive. It could make quite a positive impact. Definitely, they really appreciated the fact that we were taking them into consideration and attempting to engage and give them more information. They thought that was really great, and they look forward to seeing it further implemented across the hospital.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that implementation process, because that is something that is still to come. Remember, Dr. Clarke here speaking about those 2 pilot projects that were done successful so far, and then a major rollout is to come. Tricia, when you talk about the planning committee, how has staff been receiving it? In terms of the planning committee, of course, there were a lot of deliberations on the discharge planning committee.
Yes.
You know, what was that like, going through the rounds, trying to make sure that we get this right?
Well, the concept of the board, the Bedside board, came up as one of our projects on at the planning committee stage. We had a lot of concerns. One of the concerns was confidentiality. When we place information on the board, are we breaching the patient's confidentiality with the consideration that we have open wards? So persons will be impacted when other persons saw what was on the board. So we looked at the international standards and see what was necessary to have on the boards in public and open wards. So we tried to use those standards in order to put the information on the boards. Dr. Clarke would have, after the pilot, would have engaged some of the staff externally, and they would have given their feedback as to how they felt about the boards. At first, it was a bit difficult because it was a new concept and persons were not as engaged. But as the boards were implemented and placed on the various wards for the first pilot, persons became understand the need for the boards. They were more engaged. They actually even add information that they thought was necessary to be added to the boards.
So we've been talking about this board all morning. We'll give you a shot of exactly what that board looks like, a number of categories on the board that speak to, you know, as you see there, the patient, estimated date of discharge, 2 important categories, and service improvement manager. You can go through this board and talk a bit about why it's so, you know, helpful for us.
So yes, I can walk you through the board. So at the top, as Tricia alluded to, we're trying to really protect the patient's confidentiality. So you will only see the patient's initials there and the date they were admitted to the hospital. This is important because we're trying to obviously follow the patient through their journey. The estimated date of discharge will be present. And remember, it's just an estimate or the date that we anticipate you may be able to go home. The consultant's name, so that's a doctor in charge of the patient's care. And if you're having a surgery, you will see the surgery date or the date that you went to the operating theater there. We then come down to the investigations. So we know that this can sometimes be a bottleneck in the patient's journey, getting back some of those investigations. So what this really aims to do, it aims to enlighten everybody to when these critical tests are supposed to happen and when they're actually performed and reported on. Then we come on to the next section, the rehab and support services section. So we know some persons in the hospital may need some additional support, whether that be from the MSW, which is the medical social worker, the OT, which is the occupational therapist, PT, which is the physical therapist, or ST, which is the speech therapist. So we want to know when those persons were referred and the first time that they were engaged with by that team. And then at the very end, before you can leave the hospital, there are critical things that need to be done, and that includes your discharge medications. Were they ordered? Were they sent to the pharmacy? And then also to your discharge summary. So as was mentioned in the video, it's going to be a summary of what happened while you were in the hospital and steps that should happen next, as well as instructions, you know, what should happen once you're discharged. And finally, at the end, the date the family meeting has been requested. In an effort to protect the patient's privacy and the relatives' privacy while in the hospital, we really want to prohibit any photography of these boards. When we look at the benefits of the boards, they're multiple. We can look at it and break it down by persons that are involved. When we look at the patients, it really tries to decrease the uncertainty and the anxiety that might be associated with being in the hospital. We know that it's a critical time for many people. They can be quite ill, they can be quite anxious, unsure of what's going to happen, and this board is to really provide information to the relatives and the family about what's going on. So for instance, if I know that my grandmother's in the hospital, I know that she might go home around this day, and I can plan, I can ask for time off, so I'm prepared to receive her and get her home. If I know that, my relative, for instance, had a stroke, I can make sure that the repairs are done to the house, the ramp and the rails in the bathroom are put in, so that when my relative comes home, the house is prepared and as safe as possible for them. If we look at the doctors, it can ideally, remind them of what the next steps are going to be, or aid them in making sure that critical steps are met throughout the process, and really get them into that discharge focus decision making. And if we look at the overall hospital now, the aim is that if we reduce all of these little bottlenecks, improve engagement, improve communication, improve coordination, we also aim to decrease that average length of stay in the hospital.
Indeed. And of course, when you decrease that length of stay, you free up more beds, so that for accident and emergency, which can sometimes see some surges, then we can get more people admitted and get them where they need to be on the wards being treated, instead of having to wait in A&E, because we've expanded the department, but because sometimes we have bed blocks, those patients are held in A&E till beds are cleared for them. So it really helps improve efficiency from the entrance right up to the wards.
Patient flow, and the entire patient journey is built up of each very small individual parts. So as you said, to get a patient admitted to the ward, once you come into accident emergency, to get you admitted to the ward, there has to be a free bed on the ward. Yeah. And in order for there to be a free bed on the ward, a patient has to be discharged and go home. So that's why we're really trying, in each part of the process, we're trying to improve the efficiency of that process.
Yeah. As you were acting as patient relations manager as well recently, and you would get those calls about, family relatives concerned about what is happening with their relatives. In your mind, how does this help to make that job easier in terms of explaining to the family what needs to happen in terms of the process, especially giving them key information as far as dates are concerned?
We have found that engaging the patient and their relatives really helps with, one, the patient's compliance. Once patients are informed, they're able to make better decisions regarding their care. And at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, what we want to do, we want to get patients and family involved in their care, involved in the decision making of their care. So when we look at the board, the estimated date of discharge board, when a patient or a relative are there, they can ask a question. Well, they were supposed to have a lab test yesterday, and what is happening? Is there a reason for the delay? So they can help to become involved in their care, and help remind us and help us to meet the targets that we need to meet as far as their labs dates are up to date and the other procedures that they require. And also I've found that in patient relations part of it, that when families are informed and you can discuss with them, they can prepare. Because if I know when I'm going home, I can prepare, as Dr. Clarke was saying, for when I get home. Oftentimes families would take time off, and then there are delays, and they get time off from work, and it becomes an issue. We don't want those issues anymore. We want that if they take time off to prepare for their family, that we're able to meet the targets. And even if a date's change, because with the board, as Dr. Clarke says, an estimated date of discharge. So if the date changes because the patient might become sicker, or there's a reason they might need further tests, what happens there, that date changed. So you know that the date that we would have given you at admissions, that date does not hold anymore. There's a new date now because of the patient's condition. Because that can happen as well.
And
but you are aware.
And I know you always have been reaching out to relatives, but the tricky part is when we have those patients who are categorized as elderly or young for care. Those are the patients who their relatives would not have returned our calls, we would reach out to them, and we are not getting any feedback from that side. And then their relative is stuck in our beds, and that in itself creates a bed block.
Yeah.
So that side of it is a work in progress, and we just appeal to those relatives because through this is a mechanism that open channel of discussion can give them the information they need, as both of you mentioned, to prepare and understand how they can ready the home for their relatives instead of running from it and leaving it to the hospital. So that is definitely something that we would like to see more relatives do. Reach out to us, and those numbers are there. You can check our website as well at QEH Connect. But really to understand that we will help you on that journey and help you on that process in terms of getting ready for when your relative is coming home. Speaking about relative coming home, when will we see the official launch of these estimated date of discharge boards across our hospital?
So as I said earlier, this has been quite a long process, finally culminating in the final product which the public will see on the wards coming shortly. And the aim is to get them rolled out to some of the wards, or most of the wards in the hospital, the week of November the 1st. Some important things I just wanted to make sure that I reinforce about the board is that it will have an estimated date of discharge on it, which obviously is not going to be exact. And this is never going to trump, the clinical judgment and the experience of our very, talented staff. The aim is always to get that patient home safely. The other thing that I wanted to reinforce as well is that it's just going to be dates on the board. So it's not going to be any, very specific information about that patient, just really dates. So there really should be no challenges in terms of privacy about the board. And then finally, once you see these boards at the bedside, I want you to feel free to engage with them, ask questions about them, ask, if more information should be on it, if less information should be on it. I want you to feel free to ask about it and ask questions about your board. The aim is to empower patients and relatives, to be involved in the care process.
Indeed. So more to come on that, and we'll be discussing that later this morning on the Pulse Radio Show. That starts at 11 a.m. on Q100.7 FM. These two ladies will be joining me as we get into more about what we've been doing to improve patient flow throughout the hospital. So join us. Remember, you can call our lines there and ask us questions. Feel free to ask us questions and share your experiences or any concerns or any compliments you have for our staff and our team at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Something else coming up very soon, Quality Week.
Yes.
Quality Week, is that only for staff or for the public as well?
It will be mainly for the staff because the activities will be engaged by the staff. But there is the open day on the Wednesday, which will be open to the public, and they will come and visit the various booths that we will have out there, seeing some of our quality improvements. And a lot of it will be happening during the week. On the Monday, we have our trivia, and the Tuesday, we have a scavenger hunt, so we'll be joining in teams and see who find the most clues. On the Wednesday, as I said before, we have our open day, so we have various booths. They have persons internally and externally that will be there at the booth, so you could come and get your pressure checks and various other things that you could come out to see and participate in. As well as the Thursday, we will have another scavenger hunt, and the Friday, we will have a seminar. Our seminar this year, we'll be looking at quality improvement initiatives. Because what we would have done 6 weeks prior, we had a campaign which was titled Small Changes, Big Impacts. And it was for 6 weeks, which culminated on Saturday, where all persons who were part of the quality improvement campaign had to submit the various information for the competition.
Right.
So what we will be doing the Friday, we will be coming out and they'll be displaying all of the quality improvements that are going on around the hospital. And these improvements are at the care of the patients. They're at the line staff areas where they have thought of areas that they can improve in their areas, and they will have put some projects involved to improve the service and the flow that they're giving in their areas. So you will come out the Friday. Public are welcome to come out and be participate in that seminar on the Friday. There are other persons who are not involved in the competition but do have quality improvements throughout the hospital, and they will be joining us as well to display their quality improvement initiative.
So long story short, you got us busy.
Very
You
busy.
got real busy.
Yeah, very
Before
busy.
when does it start again? October the what?
October 20th to 24th.
All right, 20th to the 24th. We at the hospital going to be real busy. Tricia is going to have us running around the place, but that will not stop us from making sure that your care there at our hospital is our top priority. That is what we are focusing on. Thank you so much, ladies. Dr. Clarke, Service Improvement Manager, and Tricia Ward, she is our quality lead acting at our hospital. And speaking about things involving the hospital and how we are reaching out to the public and reaching out especially to those new mothers out there who are breastfeeding. Remember Shermina Curtin? She is one of our nurses, registered nurses at the hospital, leading the breastfeeding education and program there. There's a special Zoom session for those new moms and the dads as well. We put dads first. That's great though. Dads and moms, come for this discussion and stay in support. So you can go to this Zoom meeting. It is today at 8 this evening. So 8 this evening, you can log on and get all of the information that you need. The role of dads in the breastfeeding journey. And now see why dads was first. Hear from a dad. So you're going to hear from a dad there. Shermina will be leading that charge. Good morning, Shermina. She will be here on Wednesday, I think, to share some more great information with you as far as the breastfeeding journey is concerned. So a lot more to come. So you spend some time with us all this week because we give you the information that you need right here on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.